Hello, Shrewsbury Library Writers Lab. My name's Chris Dale. I'm a heavy metal bass player a lot of the time, but I'm actually a military history author as well. First of all, I'd just like to say thanks very much for asking me to answer some questions. It's a privilege to help any library really in any capacity, because of course they're so underfunded these days, and libraries are, especially for historians, where we start doing all our research. And for society in general, it's where people start reading, isn't it? Which is quite handy for the future, I think. So, yeah, just very briefly. But thanks for all your lovely questions here. I'll see what I can do with them. Andy, who is writing a non-fiction book about a wartime soldier, an unsung hero, he asks, why the interest in the niche topic of the German armed forces of the German colonies? Okay, yeah, so when I say military history author, I do specialise very much so in the history of the armed forces of the German colonies up to and including the First World War. Why the interest in them? Because I started off as a child in the 70s and 80s. You know, there'd be a lot of war films on TV. I'd watch them and enjoy them. I think they were all good fun at the time. And I clearly noticed straight away, as I'm sure we all did, that the British are wearing khaki and the Germans are wearing grey and the Americans were a bit greener and they've got different shaped helmets and stuff. And that aspect fascinated me, and it just puzzled me, and I thought, oh, what were the French wearing, or what were the Dutch wearing, or what? And so I started getting books as a kid, just little histories of military uniforms, and going into them. I found the Second World War quite interesting, and then the First World War for me was a bit more interesting. And again, British uniforms mostly explained quite quickly, American uniforms, French, all the major powers. But then it came to the German colonies, and I could find very little information on them. Again, this was pre-internet, and I only literally had my little local library. I grew up in a little town called Lampeter in West Wales, and there was a little town library, just like one room, probably about the size of my living room here. So there wasn't a lot in there. I'd gone through all their military history section. Luckily, Lampeter, I think, is the smallest town in Britain with a university, so there was a university library I could go into. So there I was, a young teenager, going into the university library and trying to look up information about the German colonies. I did find a bit, I found a bit more, and it was tantalising, and so I was curious. And as life grew on, I got more into heavy metal bass playing and less into reading books. Until one day it kind of rekindled my interest, and the internet had just come out, and I did a little Google search on my dial-up for, I was trying to search for German colonies, enter, and very little came up, if anything. And then a couple of years later, when the internet had grown a bit more, I tried searching in German, Deutsche Kolonien, and then suddenly, bang, the world exploded. There was tons of information. Luckily I speak a little bit of German, so I was able to read a lot of their websites. Some of them, especially Frankfurt University Library, has got an amazing collection of photographs from the German colonies. And using those photographs, I was suddenly able to compare hundreds of photos as opposed to dozens before. And now I could actually see patterns in, say, how the uniforms were designed. But I realised this was only available to me because I could read a bit of German. And then I had an idea that I should write some of this out, compile the information together, write some of it out in English, and publish it online. Because obviously it's the easiest thing to do, just write a quick website, bung it up. I did that. I thought at the time, I'd never met anyone else who was interested in the German colonies, so I thought it was just me in the whole world, really. Overnight, on that little website, I got 250 odd hits. It was amazing. And so, and the emails came in from other people saying they're interested, saying they liked it, encouraging, and also offering more information. And so from that it grew, and I could do more and more research around the place, and eventually ended up publishing books and articles. But it all started with that website, and I've probably talked quite a lot about that subject now. But that's why I had the niche interest. That was the original question, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, Lindsay, who's a writer of teen fiction, asked, how did you get into writing on military history, and did I begin with academic journals or something else? No, I started with a website, like I say, nice and easy to publish. And also it's out there for everyone, free straight away. So it meant, the amazing thing for me was getting emails in from other people offering me more information. They sometimes correct things that I got wrong, or they took photos of their own collections, private collectors, or they just provided me with more information. The most amazing thing that happened, I think, in a mutual way, was, I never considered this, but family historians got in touch with me. And they'd send me photos of their great-grandfather and say, he apparently was in Africa during the First World War, he's in the German army. Can you tell me anything about him? And from the uniforms, once I'd really worked out how all the uniforms worked and the medals and insignia, you can really work out so much. You can work out where they are. From the year you can work out probably when they were born, because Germany had conscription at the age of 21. So if you find someone who's another ranked private, chances are he's between 21 and 23. If you know what date the photo was taken, you can tell his birth date then, roughly. And there's other ways of working out similar things, but I was able to help a lot of these family history people, which I was very happy to do. But it also meant that they were happy for me to have their photos, and these are family photos that had never been published before. And I could publish them exclusively on the website, which again, making my website bigger, everything was good, everything was lovely. Yeah, so it wasn't academic journals at first, that was a bit later. Next question, also from Lindsay. How do you manage your research-writing balance? Do you find it can be easy to over-research in order to procrastinate from putting words on paper? No, I don't find a problem there. Maybe it's partly because I'm writing online for the internet. Mostly because I'll just, when I get a new topic, and I think the question comes up later about this. When you start an initially promising project, that the sources dry up. Yeah, that was Lindsay as well. So I think this is kind of one question about the research and writing together. I find bits of information, or somebody sends me some information, or I find an old German publication or something like that, and there's information there. I try and jot it down in note format on my computer, and then I gradually build on those notes until I've made them into a whole article. That's just kind of it. There's no there's no research writing balance, because once I've done the research I do the writing, if you see what I mean. It's just kind of flows naturally. Nikki, a writer of poems and Lantern Theatre scripts, asks, how do you collect and collate your research? Again, on notes, just copy and pasting bits usually, or retyping them out from a book if I'm translating from a German book. She also asks, do you only deal with primary data? No, there's a lot of primary data. It's obviously always best to get to the primary data if you can. Unfortunately, it's not always available. A lot of the German archives were lost during the Second World War in the Allied bombings of Berlin. So a lot of the paperwork is actually gone and will no longer ever be found. But there's writings from those paperwork that we can copy from. One of the lucky things researching the German colonies particularly is the German colonies only started in 1884 and they ended with the First World War. So they only existed for 30 odd years. And also that's a period within history where we had photographs and where a lot of people were literate. So actually there's quite a lot of data you can get at, and it's quite a small, as we said earlier, very niche topic. I've no idea how people research ancient Egyptian history really from primary sources, and it just seems to be pictures on the walls. How much you can glean from that I'll leave to the Egyptologists, but I'm happy I'm doing a relatively easy topic. Nikki also asks, do you extrapolate cultural information from your research? No. No. Because I'm specifically concentrating on the military uniforms of the German colonies in this very niche period. The reason I'm being so niche is because I think you can really study a topic fully then. If I was to study a topic, say, the history of England since the Norman invasion, I mean, it's so massive, I could never really get to grips with any of the individual topics within it. But by concentrating so closely on one tiny topic, I can hopefully actually understand it. As for the cultural information, with the German colonies, like all colonies, like British colonies, French, Portuguese, Belgium, it's a system of pure racist abuse and mass murder, quite frankly. That is the cultural information you need to know about the colonies. Absolutely horrific. I do put a note usually at the beginning of my writing at my website and stuff, pointing that out to anybody who would like to glorify colonialism into something that it just wasn't. Nikki also asks, how do you summarise large quantities of data? I try not to summarise. One of the reasons, again, is because I'm writing online, so there's no editor to tell me that it has to be a certain number of words. I can just fill this page up with all the information I want to put down, and it's up to people if they want to read it, really. How do we choose what to leave out? I try not to leave things out if I can help it. Because it's also, I'm studying this tiny topic, and some people don't realise how important like a family photo can be. And some people have done funny things like cropping out parts of the family photo before sending it to me. They don't realise that actually whether the guy has a beard or not is a clue as to what rank he is. So by cropping anything out of any photo or any information, you might be missing something out that's important to someone else. I mean, for all I know, there might be somebody later studying the history of public transport in the German colonies, and if I've cut out that little picture of the train in the background, it might ruin absolutely everything for them. So I try and put as much in, but again, I try and stay on topic with my chosen subject. Nikki's also asked, well, what do you feel you bring to the research that museums and other collections of data do not do? What I'm doing is I'm collating this one topic all into one place. Whereas, say, a museum like the Imperial War Museum in London is studying a massive topic, and they can't possibly specialise on something like this. It's a side topic for them. In fact, the German colonies is a side topic for most things, and just for me it's a main topic personally. And so, yeah, that's what I can do that museums and other collections of data can't do. I should say, I've been lucky enough to help a few museums, because just because someone's the curator of a museum doesn't mean that they understand everything about military history. And so sometimes there's small details on the German colonies which I've spotted in other museum collections as being labelled wrong, and I've emailed them. Quite often they don't bother replying, but sometimes they do, and sometimes they correct their information based on what I say, which is... my whole idea is just to get correct information out there, or as correct as possible. That's my only motive in this, really. Steve, who's a writer of 15 published sci-fi fiction books. Wow, well done, Steve. He asks, who is your reader that you write for? I'm writing for anyone who's interested. It was quite funny, my website provider rang me up once, and they were trying to ask me if they could do anything to help monetize my website, and I said my website isn't about money, it's just about information. If people want to read it, they can read it, and if they don't, I don't care. If you're interested in the German colonies, please do go to germancolonialuniforms.co.uk, but if you're not interested, don't go. It's absolutely fine. So the reader that I write for, I really thought it was going to be a lot of maybe people who made model kits and played war games, but I was wrong. It's a lot of family history researchers, and also a lot of collectors, people who collect militaria and medals. They tend to come to my website a lot. Again, it's a brilliant exchange of information, because they can send me photographs of their collection, which some private collections are way bigger than museum collections, by the way. That's something I found out during this study. They can send me completely exclusive photos, but also I can help identify bits of their collection. So it's a nice give and take with this whole sharing of information. Information not shared is lost. That's the key point. If you hold information to yourself, it doesn't go on to future generations. How many people have got proper amazing textbooks like stuck in an attic or something? It's frustrating. Steve also asks, how imperative is the accuracy of your presentation of the data? 100%. It's absolutely important. It's key. It's the only thing I care about, really. Occasionally I've been corrected on things, and it's just beautiful. I learn by being corrected. But isn't that how we all learn? So more and more accuracy is what I'm about. And another thing that made me want to publish is because I saw a lot of books were wrong, quite frankly. Their research was sloppy or based on inaccurate sources. And I was able to help a bit. Do you explore the... Oh, this is good. Steve asked, do you explore the manufacture of the materials used in uniforms? Do you know what? No, I wasn't the slightest interested in that. I was just interested in the actual basic image. What would it have looked like on a battlefield? But the more I went into it, and the more other people emailed me and got into it, people were emailing me with photographs of surviving bits of uniform, and I very bizarrely found myself one day writing a website about the underwear worn by German soldiers in Southwest Africa. And I realised that I'd gone way too far into this. Nobody needs to know about the underwear, or more particularly the serial marks stamped on the underwear. No, I drew a line there. But the manufacturer, yes, because it wasn't an initial study subject of mine, but it actually ended up playing a part. For instance, some of the uniforms were made locally in Africa, most were made in Germany, some were made, believe it or not, in Manchester. Manchester made corduroy, which the first German soldiers in Southwest Africa were wearing corduroy made in Manchester. There you go. What do you feel or hope your work contributes to historic documentation? Steve's asking. Again, whatever anyone wants to take out of it, if they want to read it, great. I'm not hoping to change the world. I realise it's such a tiny topic. In some ways it's completely insignificant. Certainly compared to the current crisis in the world at the moment. It's just a bit of a hobby, just a bit of interest, and sharing information, like I say. If you don't share it, it's all lost. Thanks very much for listening, guys. Thanks very much for the questions as well. It's been great fun. I've been interviewed a lot before about heavy metal bass playing, but I think this is actually the very first time I've ever been interviewed about my history writing. That's what I often do otherwise, yeah. Thank you.